slowly grind to a halt. We're at 0.7% GDP growth. That's why those millennials have no jobs. That's why Justin Trudeau is having so much trouble in these town hall meetings and coffee shops, etc. He made a promise he didn't keep. But the one that really got me into this race, the one that is the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, when I read that economic report, and remember, I've got two children, one's 20 and one's 23, and I saw that he proposes that for the next 38 years, Canada is going to run deficits and end up 1.5 trillion in debt, and I'm going to give that to my children? Not a chance in hell am I going to let that happen. Not a chance in hell.
Let me start with that debt figure, $1.5 trillion. You know, as you said, it's not for a number of years, and they have projected that the debt to GDP ratio would decrease over the same time. Why is that not sufficient?
Because I don't trust this government anymore, at all. They made promises coming in. They were going to balance the budget in 2019 with a $10 billion deficit. Within 2 months, it was $35 billion. Now I see these absurd numbers. Then I see the policies they put in place. What I realize is what many Canadians realize now: Justin Trudeau doesn't actually know what he's doing. That's what I believe.
On what you would specifically do, you mentioned the price on carbon, the national price on carbon as well. There are provincial ones and corporate taxes and personal income taxes. Would you get rid of carbon tax or price on carbon, and would you decrease taxes? If so, by how much?
Well, let me be very specific on what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Ottawa in 2019 and unwind everything Justin Trudeau did. Everything. You won't even remember his name 100 days after I take over. It's very simple. Everything he's doing is making the country very susceptible to a very slow economy that's not going to provide anything for our country. So there'll be no carbon tax. I will completely erase that. That's the first thing I'll do. I'll be removing and waiting, obviously, to see what Trump's going to do in terms of corporate taxes. We need to be competitive. We don't need the lowest taxes. We need to be competitive. The job of government is to provide an environment where people want to start and grow businesses, whether they're in Canada now or whether it's capital that wants to come into Canada. And that you let that flower bloom, and it provides for all of the economy and all of the people. We can't even grow a weed in Canada today. Trudeau's policies have poisoned the ground of entrepreneurship and of any kind of economic growth. So there's a lot of work to be done. And my job now, for the next 2 years, is going to be to shine the light on Trudeau's policies, because I can read a balance sheet and an income statement and explain the risks inherent to the Canadian people, so that he does as little as possible. The more work he does, the harder my job is when I get there. So I want to try and stop him in his tracks. And while we're talking about this, don't paint the walls at 24 Sussex until my wife has seen the colors.
If you were, sir, to cut corporate taxes, let's say, for example, how do you ensure that corporations reinvest that money? It's been a problem in the past. The Bank of Canada has highlighted it here in Canada. How can you ensure that wouldn't happen?
So here's an example. We're not obviously going to spend all day on tax policy, but I'll give you one easy one. So let's say you take a resource-rich province like Quebec, and you designate a company that has 51% of its employees in the province, and its headquarters there, pays tax provincially there, pays federal tax there. You'll allow investors that put money into that business. If they're successful and they sell their shares later, they'll get up to 30 days to redeploy the capital back into another Canadian company, and they'll pay no capital gains tax. That's how you, A, attract capital, and that's how you actually redeploy capital. That's how you create jobs. I don't see any kind of creativity like that coming out of Trudeau. All I see is a degradation in our economy through more and more and more taxation. I'm very unhappy.
Just very quickly, we have only about 30 seconds before we go, but what does the next 4 months look like for you before the leadership election? Are you going to be spending more time in Canada? What's the plan going forward?
I'm a global investor. I travel all around the world. I'm here at the Global ETF Conference. We have people from Germany, Italy, France, Canada, England, you name it. It's a very important economic conference. That's what I do. That's how I stay in touch with where capital is. But what I'm going to be doing mostly is reaching out to Canadians, because I was surprised last week when I actually announced, and I did it on social media, on Facebook Live seconds before I went on national television, Within 40 minutes, 2.7 million people had viewed that. 40,000 contacted me. I'm going to be selling memberships to the Conservative Party. Many of those people have never voted before. They were former NDPers. Some of them were Liberals. Some of them have never been in politics. I need to expand the party. In order for me to get a majority mandate in 2019, I actually have to get 62% of the votes of people 18 to 35. Wherever Trudeau goes, I'll go there next, and I'll explain the risk that his policies have for them. Those are the important voters to get the majority mandate. And I'll make public something now that I've told the caucus of the Conservative Party. If I don't deliver a majority mandate in 2019, fire me. Because in order to do what I have to do, I need a majority mandate. I'll be asking the Canadian people for that. And then I will eradicate, reverse, eliminate everything Trudeau put in policy. Everything gone within the first 100 days. You won't even remember his name after I've been there 100 days.
Thanks very much for joining us, Mr. O'Leary.
Take care. Bye-bye.